So as he said, I'm the director, Tandra Davis, the director of the Office of Business Opportunity and Equity Compliance. And here today, I have with me our United Certification Program partners. And I will let each of them introduce themselves. And we'll
I was getting a snack. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Norm Davis. I'm the Civil Rights Director for the City of Madison.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wes Sparkman. I'm Director of the Tamara D. Grigsby Dane County Civil Rights Department.
Good afternoon. Lamont Robinson, Director of the Office of Economic Inclusion with Milwaukee County.
All right. Thank you all so much. We had this session in the previous workshop slot, so we're just repeating it. Want to make sure that everyone has opportunity to understand what Wisconsin's recertification process will be for our DBEs. We know we have shared in the past at our TransAct and our TransCAC meetings, as well as last week we had several webinars. So information has not changed, but in the interest of making sure that everyone understands what we're doing, why we're doing, and how we're doing, we wanted to make sure that we had these sessions. And then also what we will do is we're going to go through a short presentation, and then we also will have questions. We're going to open it up to the floor for any questions that you might have. So these are the United Certification Program directors. If there are any of our staff, be it Dane County, City of Madison, who did I miss? Milwaukee, Milwaukee County. If you all are here, could you please stand? We can't do this without our staff. They have been so instrumental. City of Madison, that whole corner. Yep, I see you all. Yep, and there are some people who are at the tables also. So anyways, we will go ahead and get started. Find my clicker. So our agenda today, we will go over the DBE interim final rule. We're going to go over what the recertification process is for our DBEs. We're going to talk about application review, and then we're going to give you an update on our recertification timeline, the next steps after recertification, and then we're going to talk about interstate and new applications, and then we're going to open it up so you all can ask questions if you like. So the DBE interim final rule. So on October 3rd, 2025, I know where I was. I was at work. It was a Friday, and it was a lot of meetings that day trying to figure out what in the world is going on, because after 40 plus years of having the DBE program, all of a sudden it was turned upside down, right? And changes became effective. And those changes were effective for the DBE program nationwide. And so what they said, yes, in the past, you could say I'm a woman-owned business, you can say I'm a minority-owned business, and then you got your DBE certification, right? But now they said you cannot consider race or sex in determining whether or not a business owner is eligible for DBE certification. So instead, the eligibility for certification was based upon individual, social, and economic disadvantage. And so in American society, so we would need to recertify, reevaluate all the DBEs that were on our list, and we'll get to that in a moment, using the new standards. And so until all those DBEs got reevaluated, we couldn't set any goals on projects any longer. How did that affect us? Well, basically, the DBE program was paused. And I say paused, but not ended, because we're resilient. And one thing I did with my staff right away is I said, how do you feel about, what is happening at the beginning of a meeting? And then we all worked together around how we could work through this. And at the end of the meeting, they were more hopeful, right? because it's not ended. It's not that it's ended. Right now it's paused. And so we were very committed to doing the work, as was our UCP partners, to get us back up and running, to get the DBE program back up and running. So no goals could be set on any federally funded project from October until we get the DBE program reestablished for all of our United Certification Program partners, right? So until Milwaukee County, where I keep forgetting you, Milwaukee County, until they get all of theirs done, until Dane County gets all of theirs done, until the city of Madison gets all of theirs done, I cannot move forward. So we thought it valuable for us all to work together, right? And so we really had to emphasize that united. So all of our DBEs and ACDBs had to be reevaluated. As of October, when that interim rule came through, we had almost 1,300 DBEs on our roster. The ones that were in state, in Wisconsin, native to Wisconsin, almost 800, and a little over 400 that were interstate. And so as I said, all of us, we're working together, and we developed a process. That process is on our website. We wanted to make it, because this is kind of a complicated process that we're going through, we wanted to make it as easy as possible, so we came up with the 3 steps, right? Step 1 is businesses who were formerly certified as DBEs, they could go in and opt out. So if you don't want to be a part of this any longer, go ahead and opt out. That way we're not expecting your application and we don't have to spend staff resources, right? So we wanted to afford you that opportunity. But if you want to be a part of this process, you plan to submit your application, update your contact information so that we can make sure along in this process that we can communicate with you well. Step 2 is to complete your documents. There are 2 documents that are needed to submit an application. The first one is the personal net worth statement. It's a US DOT form that you have to complete. It has all of the, and I think we've gotten the most questions on the personal net worth form. But the form has been around for a long time, and it has been used previously, but some of the rules around what qualifies and what doesn't qualify, that was changed in 2024. So I think that's why we have so many questions there. But your net worth has to be 2.047 million or less to qualify as economically disadvantaged for the DBE program. And then the other document that's needed is your personal narrative form. So that document is going to give us information about why you think you're socially disadvantaged, right? So the how, what, when, where of what happened. And so we have instructions on our webpage that identify for you guided questions or information that we're asking you to write about so that we can evaluate your eligibility in terms of being socially disadvantaged. Once you have those forms completed, then you go on to step 3, and you need those forms completed because in step 3, we're going to ask you to upload them, all right? Using a system called AccessGov. It's about 5 questions to upload it, and if you have issues, problems with that, I'll show you where you can submit questions. And then also, if you have more detailed questions, my staff is here today. The very first blue table over there that says WISDOT and DBE, you can go there and have questions answered as well. And even if you need to submit your application, they're willing to help you with that. So as you can see here, step 1, step 2, step 3, as I've outlined. So the timeline. We started receiving applications last week on Monday, so we've been receiving applications for about 10 days now. We've received about, I want to say almost 40 applications since then. But we have what's called a 45-day priority submission window. From February 16th through April 2nd, we will accept applications, right? Those applications that we receive within that window, those that are recertified, they will go on our initial DBE directory, right? Doesn't mean that after April 2nd you're cooked and you can't submit any longer. You can. It's just that those applications received after April 2nd will end up being added to the DBE directory, right? So the first ones, they are a part of the first directory. The others get added later, all right? I think I said everything there. Thank you. All right, so when we receive your application, what are we looking for? We're looking for the qualifiers to make sure that you're eligible for social and economic disadvantage. When we review your application, there's 3 scenarios that could occur. 1, we say, yes, you are recertified, right? And we put your name on the list. The other thing we could say is, you know what? We need more information, requests for information. We call them RFIs. And we will send an email. That's why it's important that your information is updated. And we will give you a week to submit answers for that, to the questions that we have. Now, I will say, state of Wisconsin government, we're pretty flexible, right? So someone asked a question. I didn't think to say this last session. But if you need an extension, let us know. We're not just like hard and fast that, we're going to be looking at 252 on Thursday, it's in or it's not. We don't do that, right? So if you need an extension, just communicate it with us, all right? Because we are in the interest of, we want to have you recertified. The other thing that could happen is to decertify. Now, I will let you know, I sit on panels across the state where other states, when we're listening to what they're doing, very few applications are being denied or decertified. And we're not in Wisconsin, we're not in the interest of trying to look for people to decertify, right? We want to help you because we want to build back up our DBE directory. Now, if you don't qualify, yes, it will go to decertification, but that is not what we're trying to do. If for some reason you are decertified, there's an appeal process that you can go through, and then also you could reapply in 6 months, right? So that it's not doomsday forever. You can never be a DBE. All right, next steps. So after this 45-day priority window, when we develop our new DBE directory for the state of Wisconsin, we will submit that to FHWA USDOT for them to approve not only our DBE directory, but they will also be looking to approve the process that we use. So that's why we spent a lot of time, the months that it took us since October and launch of our recertification process. We were looking at what other states are doing, what are the best practices, what did they do that didn't work so well, right? And so we have used all of that information to come up with the best process we feel that we have. We feel like we have a very good process so that we are establishing ourselves so that we can be approved by FHWA and USDOT. Once they approve our process and our directory, then we will be able to establish goals for each of the UCP partners, right? So before this all happened, Wisconsin had a 12.42% DBE goal. City of Madison had a different goal. They had a 15, they upped their goal. Is it really 18? No, I'm kidding. So they had a 17+% goal. So now each of us have to figure out, using the system that they will give us, we'll have to figure out what our goal is, right? And once we do that and everything is approved, then we'll be able to go back to establishing goals on projects, right? So we'll move on to interstate and new DBE applications. At this time, we are not accepting interstate and we're not accepting new DBE applications. And here's the reason why. First, for interstate. So during this 45-day window, we're not accepting them. Interstate firms, as states who have their home location, headquarter, in another state besides Wisconsin, they're not native to Wisconsin, they need to go to their home state. There are terms that I'm not trying to, I do know it's the JOC, but I don't want to confuse everybody. So they will have to go to their home state, and they would need to get reevaluated there and bring all the documentations that it is required in 49 CFR Part 26.85. Then they can be certified here, right? So that's why we're not accepting those applications right now. And then regarding new applications for the DBE program, the DBE program requires a certain application. That application has not yet been updated by USDOT. So it includes the previous way of how DBEs were certified using race and gender. So those applications aren't available, so we're not accepting them. Someone asked a question last time. Okay, so you receive these applications, and I will tell you, since last Monday, we have received almost 40 DBE recertification applications. So thank you. Thank you for submitting those. But about 10 of them we're not able to review because they're either interstate or they're a new application, right? And so someone asked a question last session, what are you doing with those applications? Well, we're sending a letter to your updated contact information, letting you know that we cannot accept your application, and that you will need to reapply when the time is right. And we will publish that widely when we have times for when you're able to submit interstate and when you're able to submit new applications. All right. So that said, we have lots of FAQs on our website, and then we also have, if you have questions and you want to email us, you can do so to DBE_alert at DOT, I knew that sounded awkward. At DOT, I'll start over. DBE_alert at dot.wi.gov, all right? So that said, panel, is there anything I missed?
Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to say that, this, Tundra mentioned that October 3rd was a day that will sort of live in infamy. And we were provided with very little information and guidance with regard to this whole process. The interim final rule came down swiftly and sweeping across the program. And we're in touch, like WisDOT is, the city of Madison is, and I'm sure Dane County and Milwaukee County, with our colleagues across the country. And it impacted and is impacting everyone. And our response at the city of Madison was to bring staff together, talk to our city attorney, and we were trying to figure things out, trying to understand things. And there was a bit of, what's the word? Not disbelief, but just sort of being stunned, because this program has been around for over 40 years and has steadily been building on creating opportunities. And this change could be devastating. And so I think that there was some of this recoiling and some of this, well, what's next, and what does this mean, and how broad will this go? But I just want to really commend Tundra and her staff, the Department of Transportation, for really taking the lead on figuring out the next steps. If you understand, every state, every UCP has to do that. Some had sort of a knee-jerk reaction and started doing things that were inconsistent with the final rule. But I'm grateful to their leadership in helping us identify those next steps, get buy-in from the community, get buy-in from the UCP partners, and actually create a timeline with steps where we're breaking down the process among our different staff so that we're all having a hand in this. No one, there's a lift, and it's not necessarily an equitable lift, but we all have a part in helping make this successful. So I just wanted to recognize Tandra, her staff, and Wisconsin DOT, and express my gratitude for their leadership.
Thanks, Nor. I pretty much echo those sentiments. It's okay. You're talking too loud. I'm too soft, huh? Okay. I echo what Norm was saying, and appreciate the efforts and the position that Tandra and WisDOT kind of took with the UCP in helping us get to where we need to get a functioning program back within the state of Wisconsin. But I also want to thank you all as well. I want to thank you for your self-awareness of the challenges that exist with us doing what we need to do to get this program back open and back functioning. It was unsolicited, but I can't tell you the number of times that I received emails and phone calls from certified firms saying, thank you. You know, I appreciate what you're doing. And the stuff that we do where it's kind of a thankless job, it's nice to know that the things that we're doing and the effort that we have to go through is understood, you know, and appreciated. And so just know that all of these challenges and all of these hoops and hurdles and all of this chaos and confusion that exists within this program and other like programs, you know, we're standing steadfast and making sure that we get to where we need to get to so that those opportunities open back up for small businesses. So again, I just kind of want to thank you for your patience, you know, as we're working through this. But together we will get through this. And like no other time before, this is the time for us to really band and stand together. We really need to be tied and tethered together as we push, pull, whatever, in the same direction. So none of this happens without you, and so we really want to make sure that you understand how important and how vital you are to this process as well.
All right, so now is your time to talk, ask questions. If you have any comments, this is your opportunity. And I'm going to ask one of my staff members, Marquise, where are you, to pass around the microphone.
So in terms of the recertification, is it our UCP here, each of you, like before, recertify, or you're getting the list and then sending it to US DOT to approve the recertification?
Thank you, Seung, for that question. So the UCP, we are all working as a team to recertify the businesses. What needs to get approved, and so those that are recertified will be put on a DBE directory. That all gets sent to USDOT, FHWA, and they will approve our process, which in turn approves the DBE directory that we send to them, okay? If our process isn't approved, say we saw one, because we pay attention to what other states are doing, and there's one particular state, their personal narrative, it literally looks like fill in the blank. My business name is blank. I had economic disadvantage because of circle 1 or 2 or 3. I may be exaggerating a bit, but that's exactly how it looks, right? We didn't think a process like that is going to go through approval. That's why we spent a lot of time thinking about what our process would be, going to national, meetings, virtual meetings, seeing what other states are doing, seeing what their best practices are, seeing where they had challenges and, things didn't work so well for them. So hopefully that answers your question. No.
Well, you did, but so why wouldn't the US DOT review throughout the nation your process, approve, disapprove, before sending our DBEs go through that kind of response? And then they will say, like the example you gave us, we don't approve. So isn't that a waste of time?
So we have to deal, what do you call it? Play the cards we dealt, right? That makes a lot of sense to me, Sam, to say, this is the process we want you to use. Everybody follow it. We will be good. Because our original DBE program, that's how it is, right? We got 49 CFR Part 26, and it tells us control, it tells us this, it tells us that. But that's not what they did, right? And so the cards we're dealt is we have to develop our own process. And, you know, you can think, you know, red, purple, blue, green, yellow, and orange. Whatever your state is, people are doing different things, right? And so we, like I said, we tried to glean from the best practices across the nation to develop what works for Wisconsin. All right? We'll move on to who else has questions?
Tandra, you said something in your presentation, and I've met people from other states that are already here, so I just want to do clarification. You said we had received application. I know the process, but we received applications, some from people who were interstate and some were new. So the question would be, so just in case some people are here, are we holding those applications until we are able to go ahead and review them, or are we sending them back and send them back to us after May, blah, 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 blah? And I'm just asking because I've met some people who are new and some people who are here from other states, so that way they can understand the process.
Thank you, Theola. That's a very good question. So what we're doing with applications that we are unable to review now, there are reasons why we can't review them. If it's a new application, you don't have the right stuff. If it's a interstate application, you don't have the right stuff. Because you need your home state, there's a letter, you got to be on there direct. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go on. So what we are doing, we're sending them a letter saying, yes, you submitted, but we cannot review your application right now. So we are not reviewing those.
Just a question that I have regarding the PNW. So DBEs that have been successful throughout the years are now going to be taken off the list because their PNW is above the 2 million mark? Is that correct in how we read that?
Although I talk loud, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. So that is not abnormal from what the process has been. Every year we ask for documentation on personal net worth, right? And so we evaluate that. We've been evaluating that all along. So yes, you are right. If you're above 2.047, and that is actually a final rule that came out in 2024, that they updated the limit, right? And so we've been following that for now almost 2 years. So you are correct. If it's above 2.047 million, you are not eligible for the DBE program.
No, I'm not jumping over you at all. You know that. But also, it's good to remember that in that 2.047, it excludes your assets and equity in your DBE certified business. It excludes your equity in your primary residence. I believe it excludes your retirement income or retirement assets as well. So there are things that are kind of pieced out of that. 2.47 is still a lot, but there are things that are excluded from that shouldn't be included to really help and assist those businesses stay within that threshold.
So I want to thank all of you for being forward-thinking and being prepared for this. So in that vein, we know that the federal reauthorization for transportation is coming up. We know where this administration stands, and the actual law for the DBE program is in that. What will happen, or are you thinking about what Wisconsin will do if they remove the FAR part from the reauthorization where the DBE program comes from? The FAR for the part, no, the FAR 39, whatever, for actually allowing. So the feds have to this year reauthorize transportation funding. Within the transportation funding bill is where the law that allows the DBE program to exist sits. So when they reauthorize this bill, they can take the whole law out. Should they take the law out, which means there's no more DBE program, period, are you all thinking and preparing for what the next step might be, just as you've prepared for this?
You want to go first?
Well, I'll say for the city of Madison, we are thinking about, you know, all of those eventualities. If federal funding does not exist to authorize this program, then we'll have to lean on the other programs that we administer. We administer, I think it's 3 other programs now. And we've had a small business administration program for the last probably almost 35 years. And so that would probably be our go-to program. And when we updated our small business program, it's probably 10, 15 years ago, we tried to make it similar to the DBE program so that we could allow more DBEs to participate in our small business program. So I don't think that, you know, the idea of these types of targeted business programs would be lost, but we wouldn't have the ability to have a disadvantaged business enterprise program. And I would say that we've also heard at the national level that at least at this moment in time, some of the thought leaders at the national level are even discouraging disparity studies because they're not certain that those will stand either. So,
Thank you. And I will add, and I believe the others of you also have other programs that you can rely on. Unfortunately, WISDOT does not, but that is something, you know, as you said, forward thinking. We are considering small business, some type of small business program for WISDOT. So yes, we are definitely thinking to the future.
A follow-up to what she pointed out, I think everyone is also aware that in the state of Wisconsin, there's going to be a ballot initiative that will change the Constitution that could do away with the programs. Will that affect DOT?
I've not heard of the ballot initiative, so I guess my thoughts are we have to know what it is that is saying. If it's wiping out, as Mino alluded to, if it's wiping out 49 CFR Part 26, then yes, we're going to be affected. But we'd have to see how that presents itself. You know more? Thank you.
Well, again, we won't step over you, Tantra, at all. But let me say that I think to get to both of those questions, we've had our own conversations. But I think it's important to note too that we've always discussed not having programs that are discriminatory in the first place. We discuss ways to make sure that we've included every aspect of society and trying to make sure that people can start a business and have support from the government. I think that's something that is a theme that's part of what we do in trying to support businesses, and I think that's something that we're going to stick to. So yeah, for years since the beginning of the program, I think there could have been bills passed at any time to overrule what we do or to question what we do. But I think it's been important for us to have conversations about not being discriminatory and making sure that we serve everybody. So with the money that we get.
Thank you, Wes. I'll just say that, I think that ballot initiative that could alter the Constitution would affect the state government and municipalities within the state. I don't think that it has jurisdiction over federal dollars and federal programs. Just like years ago when the state removed prevailing wage, took away prevailing wage from state projects and then prohibited it from municipal projects, there's still the Davis-Bacon prevailing wages for federal programs that's still required. However, again, that's another initiative that could be impactful, and it's a little more, it's more broad than contracting and targeted business type preferences. So I think we should all, everyone that's interested, be aware of that initiative and look to do what you can if you're interested in helping to maintain these equity programs that we have.
Thank you. I just have a question. As I was a DBE, and when I do the recertification, how long do we look for to get an answer back from you to say, yes, you are, or no, we're disqualifying you? And then, because if we have some spots where you want us to give us more answers, we have a week. Just as a business owner, there's lots of things going on. Should we be looking in 2 weeks after we send it in to you? Or is it a month? Or do you know that? I don't know how many people you have looking at the certifications to help us get certified as soon as possible.
So we don't have a crystal ball. A lot of the review process depends on how many applications we're receiving. We do, I don't want to necessarily tell you how all the sausage is made, getting to the answer of whether or not your business is certified or not. But the teams are working diligently, several teams working through different applications to get them approved. We would hope that within 3 weeks you should know an answer. Can't be held to that. If we all of a sudden got an influx of 150 applications 1 week, then it's going to be delayed, right? So, and another thing we have to consider is when you're writing your personal narrative, on average, we're seeing them be about 3 pages long. I did see one that was like 6 pages long. So just imagine, what if we had one that was 20 pages long, right? So all of those are factors that are included in that review process. But be assured that our team is working expeditiously to get answers, to get you your answer, and as quickly as possible.
Tim McMurtry here. Going back to the state amendment constitutional proposal, it's a Senate Joint Resolution 94 and Assembly Joint Resolution 102. And what it's essentially listed as is a proposed amendment to the state constitution that would prohibit government entities from discriminating against or granting preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in public employment, education, or contracting. Now, on its face, it seems like it is, hey, it's going to be protectionist, et cetera, but what we interpret it as is that it will penalize any and prohibit any sort of state funding that is geared toward any specialized group. And so if it passes in November, all of the stuff will be wiped out. The other programs you talked about, that's what it seems like for us. So what we're trying to do is drive as much third-party opposition to it from now to November. So when folks get in the booth, they aren't, fooled by the language that seems like it's pretty innocuous, but it can have devastating effects for minority and diverse-owned businesses, regardless of gender and other ethnicities. So if you are even, let's say, a Jewish group, they might even talk about you can't have Holocaust education and different things like that. So we think it's pretty problematic. It just recently passed the state Senate. It also passed the state assembly, so it's on its way to November's ballot. So we would advise everybody in here, when you see it, to vote no to it.
Yes, I would agree with that. The only thing that I think is different is that the federal funding, the projects that are covered under the federal funding are not under the jurisdiction of the state. And so those programs, those practices, those dollars, to the extent that the state or local jurisdictions would match funds for federal funding, that would create a problem. But the federal dollars are not under the jurisdiction of the state. That's just one little caveat. It's still very problematic, and it's still something that all those that are interested in equitable contracting, equitable employment, all of that will need to coalesce and will need to oppose, as you said.
Thank you.
One in the back.
Bonjour. My name is Bob Charlo. I'm the director of LCO Development. We're a tribal-owned company. So my question is, and my fear is, obviously with the DBE, we won't fall under that as for our race, I guess. So my thing is what's going to happen? Because if they keep going the way they're going, none of this is going to be here. So without DBE, does it just fall on then, like for us, we bid projects. So is it just going to be the bottom dollar? There's nothing there to help you get projects, get onto the projects? Is that a possibility that we're looking at?
Yeah, short answer, yes. It's always a possibility. There's a book. I'll have to get the title, but it's on the civil rights movement, and it questions, were the protections put in place by the Civil Rights Act and other measures these landmark changes that really shifted our priorities as a nation, as a society, or was it just a window of time? Was it just a short amount of time? And this book just explores that question. We've seen these practices ebb and flow a long time. I know that our office, Dane County, and others have been to the state capitol to argue against measures that would have, say, eliminated affirmative action. That was about 20 years ago. There are other measures that would erode equal opportunity protections. I want to say that was about 10 years ago. And then most recently, about 5 years ago, there were efforts to erode equity programs, essentially DEI in the state of Wisconsin. That actually passed the legislature, but the governor vetoed it. And so, yes, that's always the landscape of possibility. But I'm grateful for these partners and thought partners that we have because, as we said, we're connected nationwide, and we're thinking about those eventualities. Now, we do have other programs like our small business programs that we've had in place and that we could continue to lean into. It doesn't deal with what Commissioner Crump was addressing, which is the decades of exclusion that many of us have faced. But smaller businesses having an opportunity to engage with government, learning how to engage with government, and then getting opportunities with government can also be a way for us to widen the doors of access and address some of that exclusion.
So we have time for about one or two more questions. Who has a question?
I have a super tactical question. So once you apply, and if you are granted your DBE certification, how long does that stay valid for before you have to, and then would you have to resubmit personal net worth and your personal narrative over again?
So once we say you're recertified, it really does not take effect until the USDOT FHWA approves that list, right? Your original certification that you were approved under previously, that is the date that we will use to annually ask you for the declaration of eligibility. And so it's not reapplying at that point, it's just providing us the information in that process, which had been done previously anyways, okay?
Obviously, you're communicating with your associates across the country. Are there any states that have progressed further than you and that have gotten approval from USDOT?
Great question, and I'm gonna have my thought leaders. I know Minnesota is ahead of us, Ohio is ahead of us, but I don't know that their processes have been approved. It has been Ohio?
Ohio is the only state that got their SBE program up and running.
So yeah, we're talking DBE though.
Yeah, they are doing their process now, but they were able to get their process for recertifying up, and they put all their existing DBEs in the SBE program, and they started SBE goals.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I'm going to allow you to have her.
Ohio has done something a little bit different. What they went ahead and did is they set up an SBE program, which looks exactly like the DBE program. Anyone can apply. They then, before this IFR and any of this came out, they put all of their DBEs as SBEs. If you were a DBE, you become an SBE. And they already started doing SBE goals that have been approved by FHWA, so that when the DBE program all this happened, nobody was out of step without goals. And now they are recertifying everyone to be a DBE and get those goals going, but they were able to mitigate the lack of goals that the majority of the states are having an issue with. Ohio DOT. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't have, the majority of people and the majority of federal funds are with the DOT. Mm.
Thank you, Mino, for that. I just want to add that when we talk about the DBE program, though, If you look at, I know Minnesota, they have completed their process in accepting applications, so they're moving forward, but they haven't gotten everything approved yet. Ohio on the DBE side, I believe they're accepting applications currently. Right. Illinois has accepted applications. We don't, I don't know of a state yet who has accepted all their applications, reviewed them, gotten it to FHWA, USDOT, and had that process approved yet. So Texas had been very gung-ho about trying to help Maine, because they didn't have very many DBEs there. I haven't recently gotten an update on that because they wanted to have someone go through the process so that we all can understand like what the next steps could be, because it has not been enumerated for us. So, you know, as we certainly are looking to that, but it just hasn't happened as of yet.
This might be a question for the panel. Has there been any changes to your programs through DBE certified by the DOA that's not federally funded?
Thank you. So the City of Madison does have other certification programs. We use this umbrella, targeted business, but we have not changed those programs per the actions that are being taken with regard to the USDOT and the DBE program. You asked about DOA. Are you speaking about the State Department of Administration, the MBE program? And so similarly, that's a separate program. And our local programs, we've not changed anything with regard to our local programs. We have authorization, we have jurisdiction, and we also have the in some cases, the backing of other federal law to support our program. So housing, U.S. Housing and Urban Development also requires targeted business programs. And so some of our programs we administer on behalf of those dollars that we receive from other federal agencies.
Yeah, similar to Norm, with Milwaukee County, we do have a separate small business enterprise certification, part of a targeted business enterprise program, where it includes the use of DBE certified firms in that process. And so with the DBE program being paused, it removes those certifications from those firms. So firms that solely just had DBE certification, if they don't have any other certifications, kind of excludes them at this moment from participating on the targeted business enterprise programs that, or projects that may have a goal. Even with the connection with the DOA, where the DOA would expedite applications that for firms that already had DBE, because they don't have DBE, that expediting process doesn't exist right now with DOA. But even just absent DOA, just other agencies in general are looking at what their programming was versus where they're seeing where the federal side is gone, where it appears that the state side is going, and eventually the trickle down to local, moving more away from MBE and WBE programs to maybe more specific SBE programs, removing preference by setting MBE and WBE goals, getting rid of those and just setting SBE goals, removing those preference for points if you were within a certain range of a bid or a proposal. So again, seeing where things are going, I think agencies are now focusing on trying to do what they perceive as the right thing, to not necessarily get swept up in anything by doing something that either the feds or the state would deem as being discriminatory.
Any other questions? All right, this is you all's session, so.
Session, they talked about the potential of the ballot impact it might have Could some of you all speak to that, because they may not even know about that, or the potential of if this program goes away at the federal level, what do you have in store? Just since they haven't asked, but we can address that now, if you like.
Yep, thank you, Theola. So I think there's two sides. So if the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program goes away, through some budget act, and I'll say, well, let me finish my sentence first. If the program goes away through some budget act, then I think that states, municipalities across the country would really look to their small business enterprise programs that do not have any sort of rebuttable or otherwise presumption of disadvantage based on race and or sex. They're also, so I think that's the short answer, is that we would look to small business programs. We see value in creating access for small business owners, and particularly small business owners who have historically been excluded from government contracting. Harvard University has multiple studies on how government procurement either helps or hurts small business and really the economic equity or inequity, depending on your perspective. I don't know that data is being accessed or valued by some of the current policymakers. But we at the City of Madison, I think all of us on this panel, see value in the inclusion of businesses. I'll say that, there have been a number of efforts to really erode these protections, these inclusive programs over the years. Some less so at the federal level, some at the state level. And thankfully, we've been able to navigate our way through those, or have some of those bills not actually pass the legislature. But if the federal programs go away, then we can look to the local programs. There is currently a measure that did pass the legislature that apparently will be on the ballot in November, asking a constitutional question, to amend the Constitution on whether we should have programs like this, essentially. And as we know, sometimes with these ballot questions, it can be confusing. It seems that if you're answering in the affirmative, you're for the program. But if you're answering in the affirmative, maybe your vote is against the program. And so this was brought up in the last session, that those that see value will really need to, A, pay attention, and also coalesce so that measures like that don't end up doing more harm to the kind of economic equity that we're trying to create. So I think that's the short answer. That answer your question, Theo? Okay. Yep. Absolutely. And there's the other question that was asked. That's what I wanted to get to. The person asked, well, could all of this end up going away? And the short answer is yes. I mean, there have always been these challenges to creating equity within our country, within our government, within society. And the question is, have we done enough to create long-term equity? Or is what we put in place, kind of for the short term? And I think that really is up to us. It's up to us individually to help make sure that our policymakers are held accountable, that they're putting forth the policies that we see value in. But yes, in the absolute worst case scenario, things could change very, very drastically. I think we've seen a number of changes in policy that many of us didn't think that we would see occur. And so, but it's up to us to help hold folks accountable and come together as a unified group and try and create the future that we want.
If you're 25 years old and you're starting your own business, and I remember when my wife and I were 25 years old, there were things we could afford and things we certainly couldn't. As life goes on, hopefully you move in a positive direction. We all invest, hopefully we invest for retirement in 401ks and IRAs, and some folks still have pensions and so forth. You talked about the dollar value. Does that factor into this process?
Can you say more about when you talk about the dollar value?
I seem to recall you saying the personal net worth somewhere around 2.47 or around $2.5 million. So if you have $3 million in IRA savings that after you retire you're going to live off of, have you exceeded the maximum?
We had a very similar question first session. So as part of that personal net worth, we had that similar question in the first session. So in regards to personal net worth, your interest, your equity in the business that's being certified is excluded from that amount. Your equity in your primary residence is excluded from that amount. And now I believe your retirement, so your 401, your IRA, your pension, that's now removed from that calculation as well. At a time that was included, and it was very difficult to have people kind of piece that out to get to an amount when it comes to the retirement, but as of now I believe that is excluded from the calculation.
This may just be a question for the ladies in the back, but is there any updated figures on annual revenue restrictions as far as not going over a certain dollar amount, maybe over a 3-year period? If you're a DBE, you can't exceed X amount of revenue over 3 years, per se. Yeah. Gross receipts, is that changed at all, or is that?
There's been a lot of changes, so excuse me if I don't know the exact number, but it used to be, 23.98 million that you couldn't exclude over that 3-year, and with the personal net worth going up, there's probably a chance that that number has gone up as well. But it's also connected to your NAICS codes as well with the SBA size standards. So it's not always tied up in the gross receipts, but if the industry codes or the work codes that you have certification in, if you exclude that value on your returns, that could remove you from either having some of those work codes or potentially remove you out of the program as well. So it's kind of a dual thing, both the gross receipts, but then also the size standards with the SBA.
And that SBA size standards table should be updated on a regular basis.
And also for the recertification process, that is not looked at, only personal net worth. But when the business does go to do their jurisdiction, or not jurisdiction, declaration of eligibility in the future, Once they have been recertified under this process, it could be looked at then, but not currently.
So right now, business with, I'm asking a question now. So right now, a business with any value of gross receipts, if they meet the personal net worth and the personal narrative, could be certified?
They could be recertified, right, under this process, because all DBEs lost their certification. We're not doing, so once we have reestablished our program, we will go back to that process of declaration of eligibility every year, and those things will be reviewed according to your original DBE certification date. Any others? We have about 10 minutes left.
So let me turn the tables, and these are it's a simple question and an ask. So the question is, I don't know if who do we have in here that is a DBE certified firm? Do we have any DBE certified firms? Okay, so this will be directly to you, and as briefly as you can. Can you give us a sense of what you're feeling, what you're experiencing in this moment as a small business with all of these challenges and just changes? The impact, that it's currently having on your business. Can you just briefly surmise to us, again, what some of those are, so that I think we have great understanding, but I think it's also sometimes good to hear from the businesses, the firsthand point of view as well. And the ask is, we're almost 2 weeks into this re-evaluation process, and from the numbers that have come in, we're at roughly 5% of our certified firms that have started the process. So if you know of DBE firms or anything, can you please reach out to them and encourage them to get this completed as soon as possible? Because one of the big things about this is we've got this 45 days to get this done. So when we're doing our new program plans and goal settings with FHWA, FTA, and FAA, it's going to be based off of those numbers. So if you're coming in after that, that's great. We want to have you, but our goals are going to be very compressed because of the lack of DBE firms that we have when we went through that program plan update and the reestablishing of the goal. So again, I know we're not even 2 weeks in, but please, if you have the ability to encourage any certified firms, please do so. But again, I'd love to hear from any of those that would like to speak as a DBE. What is it? What are you feeling right now?
It's already stressful being in business, and this is just more added stress, and you have to basically think back of all the ways you've been disadvantaged. So it's like rubbing salt in the wound, and then putting it on paper. It's difficult. And then as far as business goes, we are fortunate to have jobs that were multi-year projects that we're still working on. But going forward, the next year or so, I don't know what our business is going to look like without the goals. We're bidding all kinds of municipal work in all these different municipalities now just to try and get work to keep going until hopefully the goals come back. But it's definitely stressful.
I'm with her. It's extremely, right now, when this all first came about, I thought, that ain't no big deal. If we just go back to fair bidding, our company's always been very competitive, so that didn't bother me any. But then I was thinking, okay, now what's going to happen? And that was why I asked what was going to happen if there was a possibility of this going away. Because now, like with us, I've been the director of LCO development for 15 years? 15. So 15 years ago when I first came to LCO development, first time I ever worked in a I've never felt, and state this, I was raised in Michigan. My family's from Lakota Indian Reservation. So when I first moved over there, I've never been treated different. Everybody knew I was Native American, but it was always kind of like a cool thing. You know, it was back in the 80s when it was cool, man. If you were Native, you were the business. So then, so I've never dealt with any racial differences. I never received anything for being Native. I never was denied anything for being Native. So when I moved to LCO, my first project, and I don't want to call anybody out. I mean, things are the way they are. But I was used to everything being fair, you know. So when I moved up there, I turned in an estimate for LCO development. First estimate I turned in on a project. We was low. We was competitively. We wasn't drastically low. We was a little lower than everybody else. So when I watched this bid opening, they were really happy with the number. You know, first they stated the number, then they stated who it was from. The minute they said LCO development, they had an adjournment. They took a break for 20 minutes. Went back, and I thought, cool, man, when they come back, I'm going to get this job, you know, woohoo. First time out, success. Came back out, nope, we didn't get the job. So it kind of worries me if this is done. Like I say, where I was raised at, I never dealt with it. So I was kind of ignorant to the fact that it was even out there. But I know in our area, there's a lot of anti-tribal people out there. You know, and it's not just the people. I shouldn't say a lot of. I don't want to call. I don't know. I don't want to go one way or the other with really trying to pluck waves or anything. But I know there's a lot of anti-tribal things that go on around us. So if the DBE is gone, what's going to happen to our trucking? You know, like I say, collectively, if it was a fair playing field, I don't have any issue with that. We don't need it because we have to. You have to give it to us. We can earn it. Give us a fair right to earn it. That's my fear of what we're going to lose. You know, and that's a whole lot of stress coming on as to like, you know, you might be fair, but if the rest of the world ain't fair, man, what's going to happen with us? You know, so yeah, it is. We're in a stressful time to see what's going to happen here in the next. We're kind of like you. We're good to go for the next 2 years, but then after that, you know, what's going to happen to us?
Having been fairly new to the DBE space, our organization is a DOA certified WBE that we have not leveraged in the past. So I was on a fact-finding mission to come here today to find out if this is something that we want to be a part of moving forward, because we want to make a significant investment as a WBE. But as I uncover the onion, unpeel the onion, excuse me, learning about the SBE restrictions in the city of Milwaukee and just some of the things that are changing and the uncertainty, it really holds me back from wanting to make a significant investment, or at least recommend it to our president to do so if there's so much uncertainty, especially with a lot of the non-DOT stuff going on with the data centers and whatnot. You know, a lot of that's private enterprise, but we want to make an investment in the public side. So, just feedback. It's hard to make business decisions at this point.
What's your business?
We are a lighting company. Lighting, yeah. So mainly we'd be in materials procurement. Yep.
Are there any more questions or a pressing thought that you have that you would like to share with the group for the good of the whole? our goal is to have all 800. But judging from other states, we're seeing that I think Ohio is the probably state that has had the most come in, and they had like a maybe 50 to 60% of their DBEs submit. But the trend is more like 10 to 20%. So I'm not satisfied with that number. So we hope that we at least get half of them, that we would be more like Ohio. But given this landscape of what's happening across the nation, it kind of seems like maybe that won't happen. But one good thing is that for us, and I don't know if the other partners, they maybe could speak to their agency, but for WSDOT, as we looked at our DBE directory, and my staff can fact check me, of the 800, or really 1,200 that were on the list, only about 150 were actively involved in WSDOT projects. So if we can't get all 800, we want to get those 150, right? So we will be gunning for them for sure. I think is what Director Robinson said, is that, encourage DBEs to submit their applications, and encourage them to submit by April 2nd, because our goals will be determined by that number on the initial DBE directory. So, so that is the push that we ask for. One thing I want to share, this question wasn't in the last session, but it was in one of the webinars that we had last week. And one business owner said, well, I'm thinking of not submitting because I want to allow opportunity for the other DBEs to have a kick at the can, in case, you all, I guess, can't review all of them. To which I replied, no. Everybody, submit. We need you to submit your application, right? So that we can have as many ready, willing, and able, because as we look at and we compare that with the projects that we have and the regions that those projects are in, all of that data, all of that information goes towards helping us have a more robust number for our DBE goal. So, thank you. And the administrator said, we need everybody. Oh. I'm repeating what he said. But yes, Administrator Burkle, we need everybody. And we will take this last question and we will, oh no, maybe not.
Yeah, to the businesses too, I just want to encourage everybody to keep your foot on the gas as far as being a business. I mean, keep going. And to the person that was a women-owned business or representing women's-owned business, I think women-owned businesses have benefited the most from the DBE program. And so they, so I think one of our biggest goals, if we're talking about contracting and employment, is to try to bring people to the table so that you can compete. Because some people were not coming to the table, they didn't have access, so that you can get the opportunity to compete. So that's what we're doing. I want to congratulate again the Department of Transportation for hosting this event and leading the way on this. And so thank you very much. That's what I got.
What type of outreach that Ohio did, and is it a strategy that we could employ here to reach our businesses here, to encourage them to apply, whether it's MBE, WBE, DBE, because if it's a successful strategy, perhaps we can augment it so it can fit our state and reach out and get them to encourage them to apply more.
That is a great question, Theola, and I do not have an answer, but me and my staff, we're on that. We are on that, right? So, because we want to be as successful as possible. Paul, did you have something? Oh, okay.
The woman that was sitting here, she mentioned about Ohio, what Ohio had done. Yeah, in the previous session. So Ohio apparently had Ohio Department of Transportation had a small business program, and so I think that's the piece that's missing, that could maybe help in our state. But I don't know if you want to speak to that. But that she said that they that's how they set up all of their businesses that were DBEs as small businesses, but they're still working on the DBE aspect.
And I think Theola also is speaking to the fact that they got 50-60% submitted, right? So that's the piece we need to investigate, right? And see what the best practices are around that, so that we can begin to do that as well here in Wisconsin. So want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being at the conference. Hopefully, if you have any questions you saw earlier, you can email us, you can go to our website, you can call us. You know, we're available. There's FAQs out there as well. We want to be a resource for you and help you through this process. Thank you.